The apartment always smelled like cigarettes and rainwater, even when it hadn't rained. The building was one of those old low-income complexes shoved between abandoned stores in cracked parking lots, the kind of place where sirens became background noise after a while. There was even a police office built directly into the center of the complex because fights and break-ins happened so often. My mom moved us there after the divorce. Just me, my older brother, and her. I was around 8 years old at the time, anxious about everything. I hated sleeping alone. I hated the dark. I hated long hallways and open closets and the weird creaking noises old apartments made at night. Our apartment sat on the second floor at the very end of a narrow outdoor walkway. Inside, it felt cramped and dim no matter how many lights were on. The hallway leading to our bedrooms was especially bad. Even during the day, it seemed darker than the rest of the apartment, like sunlight just avoided it. My room was at the very end of that hallway, and every night before bed, I made sure my door was completely shut, always. I couldn't sleep if it was open. My bed faced directly toward the doorway, which made things worse. I used to curl up on my side, facing the wall, because I hated looking at the dark crack beneath the door. I remember the night it happened because nothing felt unusual beforehand. No scary movie, no nightmare, no strange noises. Just another normal night in that apartment. I fell asleep sometime after midnight, with my bedroom door closed, like always. Then I woke up. At first, I didn't understand what felt wrong. The room was cold. Not freezing, just heavy, still. The kind of cold that makes you aware of your own breathing. Then I realized I was lying on my back. That alone startled me because I never slept like that, ever. And that's when I looked toward my bedroom door. It was open, wide open. The hallway beyond it was dark, except for a faint yellow glow coming from the kitchen light farther down the apartment. And standing in the hallway was a woman. Even now, all these years later, I can still see her perfectly. She wore a long white dress covered in old lace, the kind that looked almost antique. A thin veil hung from her dark hair like something from a funeral or a wedding. But her skin looked wrong. Blue-gray, pale in some places, dark in others, almost like it was bruised or rotting beneath the surface. She wasn't moving, wasn't speaking, just standing there, staring directly at me. The strange part, the part that still bothers me most, is that I wasn't scared. I should have been terrified. I was the kind of kid who cried if the hallway light burned out. But staring at this woman standing outside my room in the middle of the night, I felt strangely calm. Not safe, just calm, like my body had forgotten how to panic. I remember noticing tiny details about her, the lace on her sleeves, the way her veil rested over one shoulder, the fact that her chest slowly rose and fell like she was breathing. She looked real, completely real, and yet something deep inside me knew she shouldn't have been there. We stared at each other for what felt like forever. Then, eventually, without thinking, I closed my eyes, and somehow I fell back asleep. The next morning, my bedroom door was closed again. I remember sitting at the kitchen table while my mom made coffee. Sunlight came through the dirty blinds, making stripes across the counter. I casually told her about the woman I saw. The second I described the white dress, my mom froze. Not dramatically, just enough that I noticed. She turned slowly and asked, "What woman?" I explained again, the hallway, the veil, the blue skin, the staring. My mom gave me a strange look I didn't understand at the time. Then she changed the subject completely. My brother stayed quiet during the entire conversation. I forgot about it eventually, or at least I convinced myself I had. Years passed. We moved out of that apartment not long after that, and life went on. The story became one of those weird childhood memories you occasionally bring up at family dinners for laughs. Then, when I was around 14 or 15, we started talking about the old apartment again during dinner one night. I don't even remember how the conversation started, but eventually I laughed and brought up the woman in white I thought I saw as a kid. The room immediately went silent. My brother stopped eating. My mom stared down at her plate. Then my brother slowly looked at her and said, "I think she's old enough to know now." I remember laughing nervously and asking what he meant. My mom looked genuinely uncomfortable. Finally, my brother started talking. Back when we lived there, his room had been across the hall from mine. A few nights before I saw the woman, he woke up thirsty sometime around 3 in the morning. He stepped out into the hallway, heading toward the kitchen, and that's when he saw her, standing perfectly still in the hallway, wearing a white lace dress, a small veil pinned into her hair, blue-gray skin, exactly the way I described her years later. But according to him, she wasn't looking at him. She was staring directly into my bedroom. He said the sight of her terrified him so badly, he immediately backed into his room and locked the door. The next morning, he told my mom everything, and my mom panicked. Not because she thought he was lying, because she believed him. She made him promise not to tell me what he saw because she was afraid I'd become too scared to sleep alone. Then came the part that made the entire room go quiet. That same morning, before either of them mentioned anything to me, I walked into the kitchen and described the exact same woman. Same dress, same hallway, same stare. For a while after hearing that story, I tried convincing myself there had to be some explanation. Maybe my brother mentioned it around me years ago and I subconsciously remembered it. Maybe we influenced each other somehow. Maybe it was childhood imagination. But there's one detail I can never explain. I never told anyone about the way she looked at me, not until recently. A few years ago, my sister casually brought up something strange during a family gathering. She started laughing and said, "Remember when you used to talk in your sleep?" I didn't. Apparently, one night she heard me mumbling from my bedroom while I was asleep. When she listened closer, I kept repeating the same sentence over and over. "There's a woman outside by the swings. She's wearing white. She keeps smiling at me." The second she said it, my stomach dropped, because behind our old apartment building there was a rusted swing set, and suddenly I could picture her standing there perfectly. White dress moving slightly in the wind, veil hanging over her face, watching the apartment from the darkness, waiting. Nothing like that has ever happened to me again. No ghosts, no shadows, no unexplained figures in hallways. But even now, sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night and my bedroom door is cracked open, I still get this awful feeling for a split second, like someone is standing just outside the room, quietly staring in. And every single time I think about what my brother saw that night, not the woman herself, but the fact that she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me.